Hi, this is Cora Stack here. Sorry, I wanted to talk about something that I think is very important with regard to this particular um, issues that I've been talking about over the past few days, and it's shocking really to think that two ministers would have done terrible things to the protective disclosures legislation and not been brought to account by the media. I am asking the question why. So, silence as a mechanism of state protection, how two constitutional challenges exposed a crisis in Irish democracy. Now, in a million years, I never thought I'd be involved in this. It's shocking. I'm absolutely shocked what has happened, what has unfolded. I mean, the media have really let me down big time and let the people of Ireland down. So what I'm saying is the Irish media have really let democracy down here. Let's be very clear. They have let democracy down in a major way. So there's no point in saying anything else other than they have let democracy down. And let's be very clear. The media, who are supposed to be the safeguards of democracy, public, in the public interest, have let democracy down. I would say, perhaps in the worst ever in the history of the Irish state. That's what I'm saying here now, and I remain to be corrected as always. When a democracy stops listening, it stops being a democracy. So this year, in 2025, two Irish citizens, Mr. Niall Byrne and myself, Dr. Cora M. we did something rare, something brave, I suppose, something profoundly democratic. We challenged the state. Now, we neither of us realised, I think, that what was going to unfold, and how we're going to be treated. Separately, we brought independently constitutional challenges to the High Court, exposing political interference, unlawful blocks on democratic participation, and serious ministerial wrongdoing. Now, this is just coming out in the last few days, in terms of the protective disclosure legislation, but there isn't a word from the media. So the media have really let the Irish public down. So let's be very clear now and not let them off the hook. The media, who are supposed to be safeguards of the Irish people, have really let the Irish public down. So separately, we brought constitutional challenges to the High Court, exposing political interference, unlawful blocks, undemocratic and the serious ministerial misconduct. Yes. So in any healthy democracy, those cases would have made newspaper headlines. But in Ireland, something extraordinary happened. Now, it was just pure coincidence the Irish Times happened to be at the beginning of my case. That was an accident. They weren't there and they just disappeared after that, and they just disappeared because they must have been told to disappear. They just so nothing. A wall of silence descended. Silence from the media, silence from the political establishment, silence from those who are paid to protect the Constitution. The courts, in other words. This video tells the story of how silence has become a weapon of state protection and why every Irish citizen should be alarmed. So I'm saying very clearly, the media have let us down hugely. The Byrne challenge. So Mr. Byrne has challenged and continues to challenge the Constitution for Fine Gael's internal block on presidential nominations. He argues that political parties, very cogently, cannot privately control access to a public Constitution office, and it was grounded in Article 28, accountable, transparent government, and I think also 12, equal access to the presidency. The implications were huge. It was the direct challenge to political dominance over the presidency, but the Irish public never heard the challenge. Imagine, they never heard it because the media refused to report it. Now, this is our so-called independent, above the board, getting press awards here and press awards there and press awards everywhere. What award would you give them for this? The Stack Challenge. So Dr. Cora M. brought a similar constitutional case myself, but mine went deeper. I was more of a threat to the establishment, not realising it, of course, My court case challenged serious ministerial failures, mishandling of protective disclosures, statutory breaches, violations of the Constitution, and administrative misconduct inside government by implication. I showed that, I've showed now that two senior ministers mishandled protected disclosures so severely that it undermines. This is what the implications of where I'm now at. Article 1, sovereignty of the people. Article 6, separation of powers. Article 12, access to public office. Attorney General's constitutional duties. There's two of them in it, isn't there? Equality, personal rights, fair procedures, and so on. Ordinary allegations of wrongdoing by two government ministers and an attorney general, it will have to be perhaps two, would dominate headline. Third, Ireland heard nothing. Morning, Ireland. Not a word. Not a whisper. Not a headline. Not a question at all. From all these brilliant barristers and solicitors and all these so-called expert legal eagles in the law, not a word. What is going on? That's the question. Why are they all gone silent? We don't exist. That's the problem. We're existential. Is that the word that my friend Jordan Peterson uses? So, sorry, I've just missed my cue here. So I'm like David McCullough when he misses his cue. You see him. So even if he can miss a cue, I can miss a cue. But at least I'm not. I'm telling it as it is. So let's just go back here to what I think is going on here. So not a whisper, not a headline. Not a question at all. Or primetime investigators, where were they? No sign of primetime investigators or any other. They're all disappeared. How silence became punishment. It was the silence was not accidental. In my opinion, it was not due to defamation law. It was not because the matters were sub judice. It was not lack of public interest. It was something far more troubling. A system protecting itself. A system where legal advisors, senior counsel, government solicitors, ministerial advisors and the courts all participate, open or quietly, in maintaining institutional self-protection. Silence became a tool to punish those who challenge the state, to legitimise their concerns, to erase their constitutional cases, to deny them public awareness, to ensure no scrutiny ever reaches the public eye. This is soft censorship enforced not by law but by culture, a culture of deference to power. That's exactly what democracy is all about. The legal profession's role. For more than 2 decades, the Irish legal profession has shaped the Protective Disclosures Act. Well, not probably since, we'll say, 2014. Well, there would probably be a few years before that. Not to strengthen whistleblowers' rights, but to weaken them. The Act was drafted, interpreted and controlled by those who now advise media not to report its failures. Sure, I mean, isn't it clear that that's what's going on? The same actors, the legal profession wrote the law, the legal profession weakened the law, and now the legal profession polices the narrative. That's exactly how I see it. I don't see it as defamation. This is not conflict of interest. This is structural protectionism. Whistleblowers are often rights on paper, but hugely denied them in practice. The media blackout. When the media refuses to report 2 constitutional cases, when they ignore allegations against ministers, and when they stay silent on the erosion of fundamental rights, it becomes gaslighting on a national scale. It distorts public understanding of democracy. It hides government wrongdoing. It protects political and legal elites. It silences those who speak truth to power. Now we have people in America talking about the Kamala Harris about speaking truth to power. Well, what is there? What's the difference between America and Ireland? They can actually do it more in America than they can do it here. This is not press freedom. This is press compliance. So the Byrne and Stack case revealed a very troubling pattern. Constitutional rights ignored in the interest of the public. Democratic participation restricted in the public interest. Whistleblowers suppressed. Legal protections hollowed out, and the public kept deliberately uninformed. I mean, this is what's going on here, which I'm trying to highlight how this is absolutely, people have said rotten to the core. I mean, it's shocking. When silence is used as a tool of state protection, would you get this in communism? This is the thing. When constitutional challenges were raised, When wrongdoing by ministers is denied in the light of public scrutiny, democracy does not collapse overnight. It erodes quietly, steadily, silently, until the people no longer recognise what has been lost. So my final message is Ireland cannot remain a democracy if citizens cannot challenge the state. Whistleblowers cannot obtain protection, ministers cannot be questioned, and the media will not or cannot report the truth. Silence is not neutral, it is not harmless, it's not accidental. Silence is a mechanism of power, and the media are using this, because they're all, as I say, in a circle. That's the only conclusion you can see here. There's no accountability whatsoever. So this is a very good case for shining the light on how much erosion of democracy is in Ireland. Now this is happening elsewhere as well. But like I'm actually shocked because I'm in a situation where I'm investigating all this as I go along, and the more I go into it, the more I can see how, you'd hear people saying there's no democracy, and I'd say, well, let me look at it. I won't take, let me see, are these people, there's, the corruption, inverted commas, people talking about, and you say, oh God, well, let me have a look at this to see, are these people, where are they on this? And there's so many people talking about it, and then you're thinking, let me have a look at it, and now I'm right in the centre, and I can say, yeah, these are ordinary, normal people, and they're all saying the same thing. And yes, this is the proof, which is shocking to me, because I can sense the implication for the future of Ireland if this isn't stopped. Because I have this kind of ability to look, to see, to have a vision about this. It's the collective kind of impact on this that's having, it's very, very troubling. So, and unless silence is a mechanism of power, unless this culture is confronted, so I'm asking everybody on this channel to help me with this, because it's not about me. Unless citizens demand transparency, demand accountability, and demand truth, then democracy itself remains at risk. So that's really where I'm coming from. I mean, I'm shocked at what's going on. I mean, it's real narcissistic control. No, it's actually sociopathic narcissistic control. It's dark-tried psychopathic control, and it seems to me very much driven by the legal profession. I can't see it any other way. I don't see it as worry about defamation or anything like that. It's worse than that. So I just wanted to, just as a couple of points there, I wanted to mention that so it's when the public never hears about the challenge, when victims of systemic failure are raised, when constitutional issues vanish into the air, the silence becomes gaslighting. So, everybody in the election was saying, we're fed up of all the gaslighting. Sure, isn't this a typical example? It creates a false reality. Nothing happened. There was no challenge. There's no problem. And the burn stack, and for burn stack, it transforms legitimate constitutional actions into invisible ones. This is a form of democratic denial. When truth is not proven, it is simply buried. So this is what's going on. It's strategic. So what's going on here is absolutely strategic. The issues are profoundly dangerous to those in power because they touched on ministerial conduct, failure to uphold whistleblower law, breakdown in constitutional oversight, the Attorney General's duties, systemic administrative justice. So silence has protected the government, party control, legal profession, the courts, the state's reputation, and this silence is definitely strategic. So is it in the interest of democracy? So it's a deliberate mechanism of control. So the most striking feature of the challenges is not what was said about them, but what wasn't. There has been nearly total silence across all major Irish media outlets, despite two citizens mounting constitutional challenges that questioned the integrity of the presidential nomination process, the democratic control exercised by a governing party, failures of ministerial accountability, mishandling of protective disclosure, and breaches of core constitutional articles. So the silence was not an accident. It was not incompetence, nor was it merely deference to legal caution. It was the deliberate mechanism of the control. So all those people who are saying there's no democracy, I'm afraid this is a very good example, example of showing, you know, so what the media have done here is they're withholding oxygen, if you like, and they withhold legitimacy. And when they withhold legitimacy, they control the public narrative without ever appearing to censor anyone. So it's a deliberate, coordinated absence of coverage that functions as punishment, deference, and suppression. So it's very, very serious. So just so why the media blackout matters. When two citizens mount serious constitutional challenge in the public interest, one procedural, one systemic, and the media refuse to report either, the silence becomes a story in itself. It suggests something deeper than defamation fear. It suggests a system where legal culture, professional protectionism, judicial sensitivity, political influence, media dependence on legal advice combine to prevent public scrutiny. In this framing, it's not defamation law protecting the system. It is the legal profession, the courts, and the political establishment protecting themselves through silence. So if anybody can add to this, why this is happening, and this is all clearly, a very good example of, why people went to spoil their votes, in thousands, absolute thousands, because this is happening to them. Maybe not in this way, but in similar ways in everyday life. Their concerns are being ignored, erased. You're not important. You're not one of the old boys club, etc., etc. So it's extremely serious. I can't highlight how extremely serious this is in terms of a mirror. It's a mirror of the huge erosion of democracy in Ireland, over the last several years. It's a real good mirror, and this is happening to so many people are very troubled by this sort of thing, perhaps presenting in different ways. But this is an excellent mirror of the huge contempt the legal profession, the courts, and the political establishment have for ordinary people, and these are all they have absolute contempt. For the middle classes and an ordinary working people. It has to be, and even to think the media would have contempt for ordinary people, that's to me is even more shocking. But you see, they're controlled by the legal profession. So this is called legal capture, and there is evidence that this is becoming more and more problematic throughout the globe. And I'm suggesting, we really have to have a major change in our justice system in order to take these actors out of it, and take the control, get their control under control, because it's obviously out of control at the moment. Absolutely. So that there are just a couple of points there on the media blackout, of our very legitimate cases, as if they never happened. I mean, that is massive gaslighting of the Irish people. Now, to mind what they did to the protected disclosures, it's massive gaslighting of ordinary Irish people. So this is why I'm very concerned about it. And I know I've studied gaslighting for years, and the association with the cluster B, particularly the very serious end of the cluster B personality style, narcissism, sociopathy, psychopathy, and Machiavellism, if you want to add to it, sadism, all of that sort of thing. And I mean, it's very, very troubling. And Irish people, ordinary people, are very troubled by this. This presenting in different ways that they're being cast aside, really, and really these are the only actors in the state: the legal profession, the courts, and the political establishment, protecting themselves and their salaries and their plush positions through silence. So it's deeply concerning, very deeply concerning. But we're building a very big following now on our online platforms, and who are fully aware about what's going on, and they're not achieving the silencing that they have they think they have, and say a lot of them are aware, fully aware of our cases. Will not really, they're real cowards. They're really cowards in a republic where the people are supposed to be important. The media have shown themselves to be massive cowards, and it isn't defamation; it's protecting themselves through silence.